This video is sponsored by the design mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission, all rights reserved.
No,
Okay.
wait.
Hello, and
Hello.
welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to this Thursday night. Probably a series of Thursday night when we're going to be playing Mythras rule set, exactly the same as what we normally play. But the Mythras rule set has the ability to be transported through different settings, and we've used it in the past, if you remember, to play superheroes, and there's rules being developed further for that at the moment. And the other way it can be played is to travel through time, and this gives us the power to use guns and explosives. And we're going to be doing a scenario that is published, which is called White Death. It's set in 1980, like where the Cold War is, so Russians, Americans, British, etc. It's the 1980s, so pop is around. I'm afraid you might notice that we got a female with us. Although people have the vote, there's not constant equality anymore, and men are still the dominating power. So please be aware of that. We're not being condescending or anything, we're just role playing out the situation. So White Death, the characters do have guns. It's not a fantasy setting, it's more of a secret agent. And basically what we're going to be doing we're going to play this on a Thursday from 7 o'clock till 10 for 3 or 4 Thursdays until the mission is actually going to come to an end. Whether or not that means that they succeed or everybody dies.
Die horribly.
Yeah, die horribly and never to be do again. I've given a new background on everything, so everybody's got blue frames around them and everything, and there's a sort of like an Arctic feel in the background, to give you the sort of like the basic feel of the adventure. Now the players are playing characters that are from certain backgrounds, and thank you Chuckawugga
You're more than welcome.
for subscribing 26 months in a row, for a whole
I
year.
only came in to see the background, and
it looks quite nice. I quite like it, actually.
So good you left this up.
So we're going to, rather than the players do not know what each other's characters do or what they're able to do. We arranged it purely that we put the characters in alphabetical order, the players in alphabetical order, and then match them together. So we're going to start off when the players are going to describe their look of their character, their demeanour, how they're seating themselves or standing, or what they're doing. And just to give you players an idea where you are, you've actually been transported away from your hometown on a rather not the best sort of aircraft around. It wasn't in luxury, it was probably in the back of a cargo hold or some kind of Hercules aircraft that was juttering all the way. And all that you know is that you're in a place that is rather cold. There seems to be quite an Arctic wind blowing all the time. You were ushered from your transport, no matter what it was, into a base. You actually have no clearance in this base at all, which might be completely different to what you're normally used to in your normal life. And to almost like add insult to injury, you also may to wear one of those ID badges that says visitor on it. You don't know anybody. Everybody is actually dressed in combat or some kind of paramilitary outfit. Everybody is very serious, and you are actually taken to this room where you're all congregating. It seems to be some kind of common room or rest room. It has some bunk beds over in the corner, and it seems to be both your living area and your sleeping area. Shortly after you arrived, you were brought a tray of what could only be classed as minimal food, various hydration packets of food that you had to hydrate and then squeeze out like toothpaste. Very nutritious, but not the most tasty thing that you've had. And as you sort of like throw your duffel bags onto beds and claim beds, etc., you're sort of like sat around or stood around in this area, and quite naturally you are eyeing each other up, sensing who's in charge, who might not be in charge, what people might do. And this is the time that I'm going to enjoy listening to your physical description of yourself. So it's basically what people can see. Okay, by all means introduce your characters' names, and we will assume that as you've come into the common room, you've sort of like greeted each other and shared that name, but now you're just sort of like sat waiting or stood waiting. So nothing about your background, nothing about where you come from, just how you carry yourself, what you look like, etc., etc. And we'll start in alphabetical order, so we're coming straight to you, Faraday.
So my character introduced himself as Faraday when he came into the room. He's currently sat at one of the tables in the room, pretty laid back, smoking a cigar, which he lit up as soon as he had had something to eat. He's probably just short of 6 foot tall, very well built. He's black. When he talks, he's got a slightly West Indian accent about him. He's clean shaven, has a goatee. He's probably in his late 40s. You would have thought. He's one of these people that, when he smiles, it sort of like takes over his whole face. You know, he's got smiley eyes as well, and you can't help but sort of like smile back when he's joking and laughing. He tends to. He's already told you a story as soon as you got in about that this probably wasn't the coldest place he had ever been, but he's one of those type of people. He seems very relaxed. You're not sure whether or not he just doesn't give a shit, or he's just really, really confident in himself. It's almost like nothing would surprise him. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to Mr. Flint.
So Flint, he's average height, average sort of build, but you can tell there's a lot of muscle hidden under there. He's not sort of like a pushover at all. He's mid-late 30s. He's got slicked back, black hair. He's got like a full but very well maintained beard, but both are starting to get flecks of grey or silver in there. He carries himself as very assured, very confident in himself, and it's like full of sort of like a casual bravado type thing. You can tell he's very, very comfortable in this sort of situation, as if he's been sort of like, used to being put in the back of a cargo plane, shipped across somewhere, not told where he's going, then arriving in a random room and told to sit and wait for a while. He's very used to that sort of thing. He's sort of and at the moment he's sort of like he's probably sitting with the other chap, but he's got sort of like a little screwdriver in his hand, and he's probably fiddling with some sort of gadget or gizmo at the same time, while still maintaining a very careful watch of the room, knowing where all the exits are and what people are doing.
Thank you.
He's white.
Yeah, yes, Flint's definitely having internet connection. We can still hear you. I think your video is sort of like catching up with you now, so we'll move on.
Do you want me to turn my video off and then just go to sound? Would that be better for everyone?
It's all right. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes, because you'll probably be quite... You'll probably be quite still for a while, so it'll be absolutely fine. So let's move on to Matheson. Let's hear from Matheson.
First thing you notice about Caroline Matheson as she walks in, she's quite tall for a lady. She's just shy of 6 foot tall. She looks in her late 20s. And when she speaks, you'd notice that her accent, it's American, but it does have a tendency to flit to other accents. It's on certain words. So you get a sense that she is well travelled. She's smartly dressed with her long brown hair and the little makeup she wears. It looks like it's almost obsessively kept in a perfect condition. She's wearing a white lab coat, and as she twists from side to side, you notice on her hip a holster with what looks like a small pistol in there. When she speaks, you tend to find that she can be, she sounds a little bit abrupt as well when she talks, and maybe a little bit, I don't want to say arrogant, because that's, but that's maybe how she would come across to you. And as she's waiting, she had something to eat, and now she's literally just pacing backwards and forwards, looking at you, you men there, and just with a notebook out, just making notes. But you can see that there's a quiet confidence there. She's not someone to be ruffled, in a sense. And with that, that's it.
Fantastic. And we'll finish off by going across to Mr. Tar.
Tar is a rather well-built individual. He's not particularly tall, but he's not short either. He's like the others, a bit above 6 foot tall. Very, very muscular, but he wears a lot of clothing along the strip that sort of hides it, as you can see with the token, the kind of long trench coats, clothing that makes him look more civilian than you've come to realize he might be. He has a very laid-back body language. He's just casually leaning against things and eventually gets up and lays down on the bunk bed to wait out our sentence in here. But from looking into his eyes, there's kind of a nervous energy that you can see. He flicks his eyes back and forth at different people a lot, glances around, but otherwise appears to be pretty laid back. He's got slightly reddish brown hair, and it doesn't quite look like... It looks like it was a military haircut, but then it's grown out a bit. That's about how much you've seen from Tar. Very quiet, reserved.
Fantastic. So you have now met the players, and we'll hope the characters, and we'll hopefully see them develop as we go through the adventure tonight. So you've sort of like been waiting in this room for what seems to be hours. You can hear the wind is buffering the actual almost like corrugated base. It seems to be temporary. It doesn't seem to be well made, and all you can hear all the time is this howling wind that seems to be sort of like streaking everywhere and rattling anything that's generally loose. The other thing that you do notice is that this whole place is not heated to any fine degree, and you keep on any overcoats, or you keep on your military gear, and even things like gloves you keep on your hands, so you don't lose warmth in there in case you have to use your weapons. You are armed, and that is completely seems to be acceptable. If you've got pistols, it is assumed that you've got them on you. If you've got rifles with you, then it's assumed that they are slung over your shoulders. You have your clips in, but tell not to obviously you have to load up the first bullet into the barrel. Safeties are on, and you are getting quite impatient when there is not a courteous knock at the door, more of a military sort of like that, and the door opens, and there seems to be two armed guards there. They are in military attire. They are complete with helmets and rifles. You can see that they've got pistols and knives on their belt, and one of them, who seems to be maybe a corporal, who obviously seems to be in charge and respecting any rank that you have. He just says, Captain Deering is ready to see you, please follow me. Doesn't sound to be a request. It sounds more to be totally accepting that that's what you're doing. You leave the room and you're led by this corporal guy, and the other person, the other guard, takes up a position in the rear, and you're walked round the base until you come to what can only be described as the main control room. It seems to have two sections in it. It seems to have an area that is dominated by what appears to be some kind of screen. It seems to be almost like map-like, with various things flashing on it. And then at the in between that and the back room, there's rows of not tables, they're makeshift pop-up tables that seem to have various communication devices on. Basic computers were still in the 1980s, so a lot of cathode ray, green lights going this way and that, but also a whole load of technicians that seem to be walking around, taking notes, writing things down, lots of clipboards around. And then at the back, looking down onto the room, in the control room, is a slightly elevated room that is dominated by huge, probably perspex glass frontage, with a little set of stairs going up to one side. The guard promptly takes you round there, and as you go up to the room, you see a rather strong looking man. He's in paramilitary outfit, but doesn't look like he's in combat gear, more sort of like commanding gear. He sort of like stood at the glass front of the room watching you come in. He's got his arms folded behind his back, and he sort of like watches you come in. And as you go into the colonel at the front sort of like gives the customary 2 knocks, doesn't wait for any answer, and just opens the door and announces you that he's just sort of said, Captain Deering, here are the agents. And Captain Deering sort of like ushers you in and gestures to 4 chairs. They're not round a table, they're not comfy chairs, they're literally 4 chairs, very metal-like, just put in a row. It doesn't look like this is how it normally is done, but he sort of like gestures to it, and you quite naturally all take a seat. You are quite used to the military fashion of being an agent. You are not in the mood to be court-martialed or anything like that. So although you might be your own person, you're also very much almost like submissive when it comes to this matter of power. And you sit down in the chairs, and the corporal leaves the room and closes the door, and the Captain Deering, who's at the front, you just see the back of him gazing out, and you're just about to think, do we need to announce ourselves, when he turns round and walks up to the table and picks up what appears to be a clipboard, and he sort of like has a quick glance down it, and he says, gentlemen, and then he sort of like scans round and he sees you, Matheson, and he sort of like is slightly puzzled, and then he sort of like seems to flick some of the bits of paper around, and then his finger draws down what probably is a cheat sheet to remind him about how PC he needs to be now, and he sort of like finds something. He says, agents, yes, welcome to the Thule Air Base. You probably are not aware of where you are. You're actually in Greenland, and we have a rather interesting mission for you. At that point, when he mentions Greenland, he stands to one side, and in the background you can see this on the site on the screen behind you. Just out of character, you should be able to see the Thule base. It's just slightly above Greenland, that's it. You're obviously completely aware that you're in the Arctic Circle. You can see Iceland and Greenland, USA, that's of course is Alaska, but notice across the way it's the USSR. That's Russia, and you almost like at the across the Bering Strait over at the tip over here is probably the closest that you can actually get for America and Russia being together. And when he says you're at the Thule base, and you target it and think, oh right, that's where we actually are. And he says, you've been brought here for a rather critical mission. We have been allowed a rather golden opportunity. We have been aware that the Russian Central Intelligence has been monitoring or inhabiting a research drift station in the Arctic Circle. Although we have been monitoring this, we suddenly notice from frequent flyovers by satellite that the station appears to be empty. You can see from where it is on the map, and you should be able to see the drift station. It is on a rather large chunk of ice that has broken away from the main Arctic region and is slowly moving away from the Arctic towards the warmer water. As time progresses, it will of course slowly melt, and the whole ice station will be lost. Unfortunately, at this time of the year, we are probably in constant twilight, facing away from the sun. It will never get light at all. The best you'll get is twilight, some dusky conditions. However, as it breaks free, it will move to the south, drifting south to open waters, and will then sadly disappear and melt. Your job is to see if we can gather any intelligence about what was going on in the research station. The Russian diplomats state that it was climate research, but you know as well as me that climate research normally stands for some kind of espionage. The temperature currently on the ice floe is minus 30 degrees C. You will be provided with a survival pack and parka and warm weather, cold weather gear, and a small survival pack to get there. Unfortunately, due to the weather, howling winds, freezing Arctic winds, snow, and an approaching blizzard in the heading towards the area, we cannot land any helicopters onto the drift. Therefore, you will be required to parachute out of the aircraft to land on the drift. Questions, people?
When was the last satellite picture taken?
The last satellite taken was half a month ago. It's not something that we've kept a close eye on. We've just made use of passing satellite to try to work out what is going on.
And do we have any idea of the number of Russians that were there?
We have no information about what was in the station, what the station was being used for, apart from the Russian cover-up story. That would be down to you and your team to try to figure out what was going on, and hopefully bring back anything that you think is useful or valid information.
What extraction protocols are in place?
You will be extracted via Skyhook.
Will there be any communication?
If anybody, just before I answer that, could you, you can choose which role you want to do, but if anybody's got any paramilitary idea or anything like that, then roll it now to see whether or not you're actually aware of what Skyhook is. You can use, if you haven't got any role that you can sort of like use, then just roll a normal influence roll for me.
Would parachuting confer knowledge of Skyhook?
Yes, it would.
I'll roll that then.
Okay.
What was the other thing that we were rolling, if not?
Influence. Oh, well done, Matheson. Starting off.
I know, she wasn't born in a stable, you know.
So Flint, you've never heard of Skyhook at all. The rest of you have, and the captain goes on to explain what it is. But basically, it's a harness that you wear, and you wear the harness and you send up like a balloon, and a plane flies overhead with a contraption that is almost like V-shape, and what it does, it flies back, then it hits your balloon, connects it, and pulls you off the ice and away. It can pick up 2 people at the time, but a bit like the Star Trek Voyage, the Star Trek movie, the modern one, when it says, you know, do not move, do not move. Obviously, if you're running or you'd suddenly duck out the way, then Skyhook will miss you. Okay, and so you have to remain totally still to be hooked off. Just out of interest, they are also providing you with 2 additional Skyhooks, just in case there's something else that you would like to bring back with you. These can be attached to people or cargo or grates or something like that. Say again, sir?
Polar bears.
Yes, if you would like to attach one. Somebody mentioned communication.
Communications.
The Captain Deering turns around to you and says, unfortunately, due to the electric and magnetic storms around the area, communication is limited, if non-existent. However, we will extract you from the ice rift in 48 hours from after depositing you there. Just to let you know, we are expecting high winds and blizzard conditions, so please do not get caught outside for any long periods of time.
Did the last satellite footage show that the place was still powered?
The station appeared to be completely and utterly deserted. No power, no heat sources, no nothing. This is a simple mission. Land, see what's going on there, and then get what we can and get ready and be prepared for Skyhook.
Yes, it does seem so, Captain. We'll be back within 48 hours with whatever we can get.
Oh, and in the unlikely event that the flow sinks underneath you, a life raft, and individual locator beams will be provided in your survival gear. Please remember that your locator beacons is what we'll use to attach to Skyhook as well. So you will activate your location beacon, send up your balloon, and in comes Skyhook.
Can I make a request, please, sir? Could we have 4 hazmat suits? Because, as you know, if they are doing research there, we don't know what, and I would like to be fully covered for any eventuality, if that's okay with you, sir.
Unfortunately, you are parachuting from a plane, There is be no additional gear apart from the gear that you actually carry yourself. If it is research, let's just hope that suits are on site. If not, I suggest you hold your mouth, hold your breath.
Oh, if only it was that easy, sir. My job would be so much easier.
Any other questions?
None from me, sir.
Well, Captain, we get airborne.
Okay, you leave at 0700 hours tomorrow morning. When you leave and when you get back to your room, there seems to be for each one of you a personal survival pack. Okay, so this is what you have in your pack. You have Arctic clothing that will keep you warm. If you didn't bring your own sidearm, then one will be provided for you. A parachute, your location beacon, and your harness for skyhook. There's also what I'm going to say a survival gear. This will include food and water, but anything else that you wish to be in your survival gear, then we'll take as we play the game, and then I will decide whether or not it's in there or allow you to have
Everybody's quickly writing stuff down.
It is about just gone 6 o'clock at night, 1800 hours. So you have this time before you go to bed, before you need to be ready for parachuting tomorrow morning. So if there's anything that you would like to do, this will be the time. But before you do that, let's get a little bit more personal and have a discussion between you all. You have been told that Faraday is the leader of this group. He is the person in charge. He's the person who calls the shots, and he can be the first person to say, what are your skills, Faraday? What are you bringing to the party?
So when they're all back in the room and everybody's sort of like talking about, sort of like what's happening, Faraday sort of like taps on a table and he says, so you all know my name, Grayson Faraday. I answer to Faraday, Gray or Sir. I'm a people's person, and that's why I've been given lead on this assignment. Before we start, I'll address the black elephant in the room. Yes, I am a citizen of the United States of America, and yes, I am old for a field agent. But as you probably all know, mit der Alter kam der Weisheit.
I didn't understand a word.
You wouldn't unless you're German.
All right.
If anybody's German, they can make if anybody speaks German, they can make a German roll to see what I said.
I don't think anybody does.
And then he says, questions. He points to the person dressed in a long coat and says, you, tell us about yourself.
I'm Tar. I spent time in the second para. Good at parachuting. Quite excited to get on the ice sheet out there. Good with guns. He says as he's cleaning his M16.
Ooh.
Good with demolitions as well. If we got some explosives, I can blow anything up. Did a bunch of undercover work. I think that's why the agency chose me. Blend in. Quite nice.
Have you got anything to get these doors open if there's no power to this drift station?
I didn't bring any demolitions. I don't believe the corporal there is going to give us any.
He's quite happy. You can make a special request.
I'll sort that out.
Yeah.
So you tell me what you want. I'll make sure you have it.
Excellent. I think some C4 would be quite fine. Tactically placed, I could level an entire building.
Okay. Slick, you up next.
I'm Desmond Flint. Quite happy to be in any sort of gunfights. Mainly though, recently I've been working on computers, anything mechanical, can put it back together, take it apart in my sleep, that's fine. And yeah, ready to get on with this.
You do computers as well?
Computers, anything mechanical, that sort of stuff. More than happy.
You got what you need if we need to get any information from their databases, I take it.
Yes, I've got a small box of floppy drives ready to download stuff onto, and I've got minor mechanical kits just in case I need to put anything back together or take computers apart and fix them.
And finally, the nurse.
Why, thank you. I'm not actually a nurse, but I have been known to be honest. You may have read a couple of papers of mine, the regulation of enzymatic activity and mixed and uncomprehensive inhibitions. No? No, I thought not. I am a chemist, a biologist. I am a biochemist. I also am a very competent medic, which hopefully you won't need my bloodies here. But most important of all, I do speak very good Russian. So hopefully, if there's anything on there that you chappies, you strong bull of men can't read, I'll be able to help you there.
I have an understanding of Russian myself. Maybe not as good as you, but let's just say this way. I've been around the block.
I'm pretty sure you have.
Okay, so is there anything that anybody, Faraday, is it an idea that you would like to ask for other things before you leave? You mentioned about...
So he'll once the introductions are, he'll go to everybody in turn, see whether or not there's any specialised equipment that they need,
okay,
or that we can request. He also wants to ask whether or not everybody is capable of operating a parachute.
So who has had military flying and parachuting experience, sorry?
Mr. Pickles put his hand up.
Right.
Tar has. He's got very extensive.
Mr. By the way, how come he's always Mr. Tar or Mr. Bartleby? He can just be Tar this adventure.
No, that word is madness.
Set a precedent for it. So it's Tar has had very extensive experience, and he's probably checking his parachute to make sure it's packed to what he likes.
Has anybody else had military experience of flying and have expertise in parachuting?
I've got expertise in piloting, so I wondered whether or not...
So you will be... there's two areas that I need to check up on, parachuting, but also the general passage on the plane. So Faraday's probably had experience flying around the place, so that's fine. What about Flint and Matheson?
Matheson's a no-no. Okay,
then. Not a problem. And what about...
If you're talking about specific skills, then no.
Has, by the background that I gave you, will he have had military flying experience?
Let's just double check. The background that you gave. Yeah.
Probably not.
No, I don't think so. It doesn't even mention it.
He's probably more to do with computers and getting things out. Yeah. Okay then. So back to Faraday. Tar and Faraday, you've had parachute experience. Faraday, do you actually have a parachuting skill?
No, he just has piloting.
Okay then. But Tar, you have parachuting as a skill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and what level is your skill?
85.
85. So Tar can talk everybody through the basic of the parachuting role, which means that for
Pull
the
this cord.
yeah, but where to count up to, etc., how to plumb it down just in case there's radar active and things like that, which means that for this jump only, you will get half of Tar's parachuting skill, just for the initial drop. So he's basically taught you some basics, which you'll hope to do. So you'll all have 42 skill for it. So just put it in your professional skills and put it down as 42 in the temporary. Don't add any. What does it go on? What's the two? Does it say which stats it's going on, or does it just say 84?
It doesn't tell me which characteristics.
Yeah, that's all right. So we'll just say half of that.
So we put it in, sorry.
Just put it in a professional skill and just put parachuting 42. Anything else that Faraday wants to try to ascertain before you head off?
So we need anything that people have requested. He's one of these people that he's going to check people's packs to make sure that they've got everything that they need. He's not going to trust it to them. So
basically, Matheson will have the basic first aid kit. You can't sort of like carry out heart surgery or anything, but it'll be good.
Field kit.
Yeah. There's some explosives given to Tar, so he's probably got about 5 sets of explosives that can be remote controlly detonated. Is there anything else that
Would Matheson be able to get one spare clip?
Yeah, if you can up the amount of ammunition within reason, so you probably have 1 clip in your gun and probably 2 clips or 3 clips separate. That's not a problem at all. Is there anything that Faraday would like to ascertain apart from equipment?
He wants to, if he can, he wants to see what intel we currently have on, whether or not we've got any maybe an aerial satellite photograph of the place, so we can determine how large the complex is, where the entry points may be, maybe judging by where the vehicles, if they had vehicles or anything parked, whether or not there's any floor plans, and whether or not they actually ever had a list of people that were actually on the station. Okay,
make your influence roll for me, please.
I got a 56 standard out of 84.
Yeah, okay then. So you are provided with certain pieces of information that you may or may not have the skill to interpret, but you can, of course, allocate it to people in your group, other agents who might have the expertise. So the first thing that you actually get is that you get the last satellite passover of the site. It was actually taken 8 days ago, and showing that it was empty. The data before that shows that it was being lived in. There was thermal images around. Then you can also find that I'll show you roughly the layout. And so this is all you sort of like see of it. Now, before I take the characters, the players over to this, they do not see the detail. Okay, so that's all they will see because my layer. So if you are on the stream, then make sure you turn it off so you can't see what everybody else can see. So this is the layout from satellite. They all seem to be some kind of prehab. They're sort of like being set up, fabricated. They're not sort of like permanent fixtures. They all seem to be roughly the same shape, and when they're not the same shape, it looks like two habs have been put together to make it. The only difference is the yellow one that you can see with the yellow board around it. All the blue ones look exactly the same from the top. You have no idea what's in it. The yellow one is showing an area. From there you can see that there's a big satellite dish at the back of that, so sort of like here, and in the front of it there are, I think it's 3, but I'll just, you can actually see that from the satellite that there's 3 snowmobiles in there as well. Does anybody have sensors or science or anything like that?
Sensors over here.
Sensors as well.
Okay then. So who has the highest sensor roll?
62 here.
36.
Okay then. So if Faraday, if you roll it and team it with Tar, so you'll get, what was yours? 36. So you'll get like 7% added onto your temporary skill, and then roll it as you look at it.
29 out of 60.
Yeah, nice. So that was just like a standard roll, wasn't it? Okay, then you can see that the satellite is totally devoid of thermal imaging at all. The only thing that you do notice, and it's just as you sort of like looking around, and you sort of like get a magnifying glass out and sort of like zoom in, about 1,000 yards north of the camp, there appears to be some kind of scattered debris. You can't see what it is from this distance, but it looks like it's probably, quite significant chunks of debris, because it's showing up on the sensor scan. It doesn't, what it is, you don't know, but it just looks like a whole load of debris in the snow. And it's only when you sort of like get your magnifying glass out or put one over the top of that you initially see it. It was probably just looked at as some kind of anomaly to start off with, maybe just some like rock formation or something like that. Does anybody have a science skill of any description?
Yes, I have my research, biology, chemistry.
Okay, so if you'd like to roll one of them, the information's the same for everyone, but you just need to roll it, and let's see what you get. Nice. Okay then, you're sort of like looking at the almost like the infrared scans of the from the area, and there's it's only because you got a critical this, and it actually says in my notes, and only a critical. It says a critical, and then it says in brackets, and only a critical.
Is it a polar bear?
Now you actually have a look, and in the radiation, the infrared, there seems to be very faint traces of transuranic isotopes in across the whole area. They're very small, but it's not what you would even expect as a background count. It's definitely some kind of radiation, some kind of isotope that is there, and it's only because you're good at your job, Matheson, that you've actually picked it up. There's no record of anybody else finding it. It doesn't seem to be localized to any particular area. It just seems to be almost like in the air. and you actually find that as well. So those are the information that you can find. So this is be a golden opportunity to.
There was one other thing that I wanted to request, if I could.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted to see whether or not I could get the weather reports for the next 72 hours.
Yeah. Okay, then that's not a problem at all. 72 hours or 48 hours. You have to be off within 48 hours.
Yeah, but I want 72.
Okay then. So basically, just to let you know, let me just go to this. There's definitely a big blizzard moving in. It's probably hit the barracks at the end of your 48 hours. You and looking at sensor readings as well. Once the blizzard hits, skyhook is going to be not possible at all. It's coming in. The wind is about -30 up there already, with very harsh winds. So very chill factor. Anybody with combat experience will recognize that if you expose your flesh to this sort of temperature, you will probably get instant frostbite. Your parkas come up into sort of like a funnel snorkel, and you'll probably be wearing goggles and masks, woolen mask over your face so you can still breathe. But you figure you probably have 48 hours, Faraday, before that blizzard hits. And once that blizzard hits, then that is it. You will not be able to get out there. It looks like it will last for at least another day, 2 days, maybe even longer. Seems to be a very big storm heading your way.
Okay, so when we've been looking at the latest sat picture, and Matheson's picked up this other stuff, is that something that everybody's been made aware of? Or
yes, it's up to you.
I would have I'd have explained to everybody that we're not going to be able to stay there that long, and once we get back, we need to check our contamination. It's something that it's okay in small doses, but you don't want to be sucking that stuff all day long.
Do you wish to be on the research map to formulate any plans?
We'll have a quick look.
Okay, there you go. You have no idea what each one is used for at all. One thing that you do notice, by the way, that I should have mentioned beforehand, there seems to be, every now and again, there seems to be some black cables. You can't trace them back to where they are because a lot of the time they get buried underneath snow. But you see them every now and again around the outside of the habs. It probably looks like somewhere on the site there's probably some kind of generator that is actually creating the power. You do know, however, is that if the research station was actually deserted, i.e. they left it, the chances are they've probably ruined anything there beyond repair. It's not clear why they abandoned the site at all.
Does the long range weather forecast, does it show that upon our landing it's going to be clear for the next 48 hours before the storm hits?
No. A constant state of dusk, heavy winds, -30 degrees. So
but no blizzard.
And no snow as well. It's probably always snowing. It's just that probably when you get there, you can probably still see through it. Once the blizzard hits in 48 hours, the strength of the wind would quite easily knock you over. You'll be leaning into it, and the amount of snow falling will either cover tracks instantly or, cover up your visors, etc., etc. You really do not want to be around.
So can I also put in a request for some do you know, sort of like the mountaineering rope that you tie yourself together with. You know, it's going through sort of
you can take some rope with you. That's not a problem.
And also the ones that you sort of like hammer into the ground, and then you put it at intervals so that you can follow your way around it. Bases like this normally have it for when people are moving to.
Yeah, just to let you know, there'll be nothing solid on the ground to actually hammer it into, because it's literally snow. But there might be other parts of the hab. If you want to take climbing gear, then that's completely up to you.
Okay.
Faraday, can I make a request as well? Can you maybe get hold of some heat vision goggles? So if one of us did get misplaced outside, it'd be a lot easier to find us.
Thermographicing goggles are not available.
Oh. I was going to say I've already got a pair of NMPVS2s, but I'll take them off. Shit.
What about flashlights? Do we have those in our packs?
No, it's oil still.
Yeah, those will probably be available in your survivor gear.
Torch.
Yeah. Can we also make sure we have some ice picks as well, or ice axes, just in case we need to?
Yeah, just to let you know, just so you are aware of what's happening. The more equipment you carry, the harder your parachuting roll becomes. Okay, so the more things that you put on, and plus, you know, if you've got you can take an ice pick if you wish, but you're parachuting with it on you. You know, so
yeah, I mean, the ones I'm thinking of, they're only sort of like they're not a massive pickaxe, two-handed pickaxe. They're the little one-handed ones that you use when you're climbing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Sort of
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. So so everybody needs to be aware of that. That the more equipment you take with you, the harder your parachuting roll is going to be.
Taking SEAL Team 6, will that add to my encumbrance?
Yes.
Okay.
What we've heard about you, probably not. Taking SEAL Team 6 7 times. I think it's all pretty simple what we've got to do. It's just a simple get in, check it out, get back out. I say once we land, we head straight for the communications, and then, if needs be, we will head round the other buildings in a clockwise direction, searching each one in turn. We got 48 hours.
Sounds good, sir.
Just remember that you won't have communication. The Skyhook will pick you up when you activate your beacons in 48 hours. So if all of a sudden something goes wrong and you need to be evacuated straight away, you've got 48 hours to wait from drop off, just to be clear. So you're not in constant communication with base or anything like that. Think of aliens and waiting for the drop ship to arrive and things like getting the Sulaco off the thing.
Wouldn't it be better, sir, if we got the generator up and running? A little bit of homely heat wouldn't hurt anybody.
I don't really fancy chugging in a whole load of gasoline. If we can, then we will. But also, just remember, this isn't our base. The Russians could be running satellites as well, keeping an eye on the place. It could even be a trap. We don't want all of a sudden lights and communications going off everywhere. They can probably get somebody in there faster than we could.
I do bow to your superior field knowledge, sir.
It is just a simple mission. Get in, get out.
Okay then. So you collect your equipment together and store it away in your packs. Tar gives you basic parachute lessons, i.e. jump, hold your breath, count to X amount, pull the ripcord, hope and pray. And you're quite used to operations, so you're quite used to sleeping the night before, so it's not as if you get nervous or anything like that. And quite early on in the morning, before your aircraft takes off, you're up, you are kitted out, you have your gear on, and you're ready for your parachute jump down onto the ice floe. Now, just to let you know, you are being you will leave base the Thule base in Greenland on board a C-130. It's a rather old flight. It's not designed for creature comforts at all, and it is buffeted and there's a lot of turbulence, etc., etc. So if you have got flight experience already, then you do not need to make this roll. If you do not have flight experience, then please make for me an endurance check.
Would my parachuting count as flight experience, or are you
Yes.
looking for piloting?
No, fly.
Can
Okay.
I use a point of luck just to re-roll that, please?
Yes, by all means. Okay. Flint, are you leaving it or re-rolling it?
Use a point of luck to reverse that one.
Okay then.
That's
So
fine.
yeah, so
That's important.
you sort of like are bounced around quite a lot, but none of you managed to gain an extra level of fatigue before you even get there. You manage to adjust yourself, and every now and again you have to strap down things that have not been done, Faraday, to your acceptable standard, and it's bounced around. You're hitting turbulence quite a lot, and eventually you seem to be the weather conditions getting worse and worse and worse when you see the red light change to red and amber, and you realize that it's time to actually get up, make sure your parachutes are on and attached, as the back of the plane, the ramp sort of like lowers down, and you see that it's quite disorientating because all you can see out there is white. There's white ground, white snow, and of course it's constantly, even though it's 7 o'clock in the morning, the sun never rises. It just sort of like scoots along the bottom of the horizon, never ever showing. So throughout this adventure you are going to be in twilight conditions, so torches will be made to make better perception checks. Otherwise, you will be perceptioning at one level harder. The other thing to remember is listening is very difficult. You probably have balaclavas up, then your hood's on, goggles and face masks. So actually listening is very difficult. Plus, you've got the howling wind. So any perception for listening will definitely be at formidable level to hear anything.
Whoever's been sat next to Faraday on this journey is probably glad that the red lights just come on, because right the way through it he's been telling stories about the adventures that he's had, things that he's done, saying, oh, this isn't cold, you should have seen it when I was on a remote listening post in Siberia, it was so cold that the snowmen we built all migrated south.
And just as Faraday's saying that, and you're just sort of like thinking, please stop there, you notice that the red and the amber lights go off and the green one goes on, which means it is time to jump. Who's going first?
I presume Tar would be the first to jump
then.
out.
So out jumps Tar, go like that, jump into the void. You notice that the wind whistles past you, and you start to build up snow on your visor as you go down, followed by who's jumping next?
Caroline will go next.
Flint will probably go second.
Okay then, so Matheson goes and Flint goes, and then Faraday brings up the...
Faraday, before he sort of like he gets to the end and he just looks around to make sure that nobody's left their backpack behind or anything like that, seeing that the place is clear, he'll
jump. Okay then, so Flint and Tar, sorry, let's start it off with you. Parachute roll for me, please. Yeah, so you jump out. The parachutes are not just normal parachutes. You've got cables at either side to try to maneuver as you fall. Obviously, you're not going to be able to land straight in the middle of the base, but you actually land, Tar, within sight of it. It's probably quite a long walk. It's not like 2 minutes, but you actually see it and you land quite successfully onto the ice and quickly take down your parachute and pull it in to stop yourself being blown away with it, quickly releasing the harness, etc. Okay then, Matheson, if you would like to roll your parachute next. So you look up and you see Matheson coming down. Do you wish to use a point of luck, Matheson?
Yes, but no.
No? Okay then, so she sort of like seems to be coming down, and you suddenly notice that she's not pulling on the strings well enough, and she's almost like got into one of those vertical spins round it, and as she comes down she hits the ground and hits it at a strange angle altogether as the parachute keeps pulling her. Could you roll a 1d20 for me, please? 4. So you land quite awkwardly, and you take it's coming. You take 3 points of damage to your 4 as you land. What's your 4?
Left leg.
Yeah.
Got muted, Medivac. You can say whatever you want.
Sorry, left leg.
Yeah. I presume it's still in positives.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay then. So you sort of like land and then quickly, but you feel that you sprained your knee or something like that. You look around for Bartleby, but he's not there. He's not there at all.
That's because he's in Mythras. Well,
Flint, you're up next. Off you go. Oh yeah, you parachute
he
down.
remembers everything that Tar says.
Yeah, and
Does everything as usual.
and Tar, you're really impressed that Flint has taken everything on board, and he sort of like brings it down and sort of like lands it quite nice, even a little bit of a running landing before he hits the thing. And then Faraday, you're coming down last.
I would like to use a point of luck to take that to a 9.
Yeah, okay then. So cross the look off, and as you all look up, you nursing your leg, Matheson, and the rest of you see Faraday coming down, and you suddenly notice that he seems slightly out of control, and you all sort of like fear the worst for your leader, but at the same time, with some miracle of luck, he seems to be able to pull one side of the parachute in and bring it round, and actually sort of like lands quite nicely on
He unlocks it, and you hear him shouting over the wind. "A crosswind a bitch!"
So you all there, and you sort of like gather your parachutes in, and you don't have to carry them now. You can bury them in the snow, or you can leave them. What would you like to do with them?
Standard practice for Faraday will be to gather it up and to bury it.
Okay.
Bury is the proper practice for Tar as well.
Okay then. So, and Matheson and Flint, you sort of like see Faraday.
This has just been pulled across the ice.
Help me!
You sort of like
Toto too.
you sort of like see them burying their parachutes.
Matheson, seeing she's out of the water with parachutes, so she's going to be doing exactly the same what they're doing, bury it.
Cool. And you sort of like bury them, and then you sort of like get yourselves together and organize yourself ready to head towards the base. I'm just putting your tokens on here, just in case we need to use them at all. And just
They gather everybody up and shouting at them. He'll say, "We're not expecting trouble, but it's better not to be complacent. Tau, you go first. I'll follow. And then Matheson. And Flint, you bring up the rear."
so
Tar will lead. He has his gun.
so who's second, sorry?
Faraday.
Okay, so roughly you're in that order, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Remember, people, if you need to, do hand signals. Don't rely on us hearing you.
Okay.
So Flint will give the OK sign, and then making sure he's got his M16 with its strap over the shoulder, he's going to cock it, but make sure the safety's still on for the moment.
Yeah.
Take it to the back.
I didn't hit.
And he return sort of like over his shoulder, sort of make sure.
We can't hear you at all.
Use hand signals. We can't hear you.
Okay, I think he said that he had his weapon ready, etc. So the plan, therefore, you will approach the site from the south. So you should see your little map.
How come we can hear him typing fine, but when he speaks,
I know.
use Morse code.
So
there you go.
You'll be approaching the research station from the south. If you decide which way, you can either come in from here, or you can come in from that side, or if you would prefer to circumvent everything and keep an eye out and then go into the research station, it's completely up to you. What would be the plan? Tar, you're probably leading people. So what's your plan to take them in?
Tar has some experience in squad tactics as a skill. Would I be able to use that to roll to see the best possible way to enter while avoiding being like out in the open and being gunned down by enemies?
Roll the skill.
Big money.
Straight up.
Do you wish to luck it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and luck it. Why not?
Okay then. To do, if you're thinking that the research station is still inhabited, which it's considered deserted, then this entrance is probably not the best way to come in. It's probably better to come in from almost like the south or the southeast and come in between the couple of prehabs and going into the actual area rather than approaching from this area indicated.
Gotcha. And Tar presumes there's nobody here, but he doesn't want to leave everybody out in the open. So I guess the route I would go would be kind of like this.
Okay.
And staying close to buildings, pointing the M16 at windows as we approach, just in case somebody pops up.
Okay. And then whereabouts are you planning to go from there?
Probably.
I'm not going to do the everybody go there, then go there. Then I just need to know how you're going to be approaching the base. So the idea is that you're going to move across to the satellite and the snowmobiles, yeah?
Unless anybody behind me stops me. That's the way Tar would be going.
As long as if it looks like Tar is heading to the building that Faraday said that we were starting the search from, then he doesn't stop.
Okay, so as you go through and you'll all end up over this side of the map, the various things that you notice. The first thing is that as you go across, you've got very tunneled vision. You can hear the wind howling, and even staying out for any small amount of time, you can feel the wind chill factor starting to numb fingers and faces even through your heavy gear. The other thing that you notice as you come through is that none of the buildings have any names on them at all. They all seem to have what appears to be environmentally sealed doors that can be sealed against the weather that you're quite familiar with. But there's no labels next to them or anything like that. This is probably quite self-explanatory, because if there were people here, they would know what's what, and they wouldn't actually need a label on anything. As you sort of go across, Flint, can you just roll me a perception roll, please? And remember, this needs to be formidable. Okay, cool. So you sort of head across, and you come towards the snowmobiles and the satellite. So the first thing that you notice when you get over here is that the snowmobiles are completely covered with snow and ice. They haven't had anything over them, i.e. covers or anything, and the snow has piled up on them. They seem to be completely encased in snow. You probably does anybody have an engineer or vehicle skill at all?
I have
mechanic skill.
Okay then.
Mechanics as well.
Okay, if you have mechanics, then do roll it.
Are you not got something else running, Longshanks?
Let me just move this out of the way so I can see what we got. Flint with a standard, and Faraday with a standard as well. There's several things that you notice. The snowmobiles are definitely covered up. You probably think, both of you think, that it's probably frozen right the way to the core. Whether or not internal fuel lines are frosted over, you're not too sure, but they don't look like they've been used for some time. You can, if you wish, attack the snow and ice to try to get them out if you need it. Can
we recognise who's are they Russian, or are they?
There does seem to be generic snowmobiles. They don't seem to be a specific Russian model. They have no markings on them, which anybody who has military training will be aware that they wouldn't have in any case. Just so people know that if they were found, then that was be it. The other thing that you noticed, there is like a satellite dish. You also notice that it's completely covered in frost and snow. There's icicles coming out of it. Even the box at the back, you notice that there's power leads coming out of it. But you notice that both of these have been pulled out of the actual satellite dish. They're not attached in there anymore. And you notice that one goes a short distance and then terminates. It looks like the sheath has been taken off, and you can see the raw engineering, the cables there. It almost looks as if it's been disconnected, but a section of it used. You can't see it anywhere else. The other one just seems to go underneath the snow. You do feel that you could actually maybe get this working, but it would probably require a series of skills and several hours to get it going. probably mechanics to get all the bits done, electronics to, or something similar to reboot the system, sensors to probably realign it so it's lined up with satellites, and then probably something like communications or computers, something to find the right frequency to actually, make a communication. You probably think it will take hours rather than minutes. So taking minutes
Faraday will file that information away, or just thinking that, if at some reason that we don't make the 48-hour deadline, it could be used as a contingency plan. We might be able to wait out the storm and then fix it and use that to get off the ice if possible.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. I'm just trying to find something. Yeah, so what else would you like to do? Just to let you know, I presume that you've been round the back of this building here. You do notice that round the back of it, in this position, sorry, you can't. Can you see that?
A little purple mark.
Yeah, there seems to be a generator there. It's where the cables come round. It's absolutely frozen over at the present moment in time. It doesn't look like it's been used for some time. Definitely since the 8 days of inactivity, if not more.
Okay, and all windows are...
Oh yeah, sorry. There's no windows at all. They probably work on the principle that wherever there's a window, there's a chance for air or cold air or wind or snow to come in. So all the habs only have sealable doors. And then that's it. There's no windows to the outside at all. And all the doors that you can see are shut.
Okay, so Faraday's going to head to the door on this building.
Sorry, I didn't see the ping. Hang on a minute.
It's the one that he stood next to.
The yellow one.
Yeah.
That's the satellite dish and the snowplows.
All right, that's not where they went into.
As in,
that's not building. That's not the building that they went into.
No, that's outside. So at the back,
okay.
There's the block with a huge satellite dish, and then lying in front of them are the 3 snowmobiles.
Right. Okay. So in which case, he'll go to this building, which is the closest one.
Tara will follow.
The door's facing inwards.
The doors close, but it will open inwards. Yeah, most definitely.
No, it's facing into the compound.
Oh yes, all doors are on the inside of the.
Inside, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I make a mechanics roll to see whether or not I can work out how to open it?
Yeah.
Whether or not it's just a simple turn the lever, spin the.
Yeah, it's actually as simple as turning a lever. There's a slight as the air seal is broken, and then you can walk in. They don't seem to be locked from anything. It just seems to be open, and you can just sort of like turn the handle. It's sort of like one of these that you sort of like pull towards you and turn, and that will open the hab door. And whenever you open them, there's definitely, if I forget in the later on, there's definitely a sort of like as not because it's a Star Trek door, but you're releasing pressure. It's obviously been sealed, not necessarily from anything dangerous in the air, but more the coldness and the wind.
Okay. Was there anything written on the door or anything like that?
No, nothing at all.
Okay. So he's going to open it and step through. As he steps through, he's going to reach up and put on his put on his little headlight torch thing that he's wearing.
Okay. What's everybody else's plan? Are you planning to all go into here, or is some people staying outside?
No, warmth is safety. Get inside.
Okay. So Matheson is off inside as well. So Faraday's in. Mathewson's in. What about Tar and Flint?
Tar follows with his M16 drawn and ready.
And Flint?
Flint will be inside as well.
Okay then. Is the plan to close the door behind you?
Yes.
Okay, so you close the door, and there's definitely, you notice that the seals are still in place. There's nothing damaged about the door at all. Okay, so this building is divided.
Like a window in it or anything like that?
No, there's no windows at all. So this building is divided into two. Okay, there seems to be what appears to be a crammed general study area, and then that's as soon as you walk in. So there's a little like study area. So there's things like a desk there, things like that. And then to your left as you go in is an air-locked laboratory. You can see that it's set up as some kind of chemicals or something like that. You can see things like those little vaccinator vials with stoppers on. On your side of it, there's two biohazard suits hanging on a wall. As you look round, there seems to be a whole load of research notes and paper on the table. There seems to be also SM1600 mini computer. It's the most advanced computer that you can have at this moment in time. It looks who has a computer skill?
I do.
Just roll your computer skill. Yeah, you immediately recognize this as a prototype. You've seen plans for it on your other missions, but never sort of like seen one in operation. It's actually supporting two terminals, and there's a whole load of memory chips on the floor as well. There's also what appears to be a kerosene heater in here. It's not on, it's off. And you can see in the laboratory section there's a whole load of like microscopes, centrifuges, and what appears to be a box on the far wall that seems to have like a biohazard sign on it. That seems all fairly normal. However, if you came in, the laboratory's on your left side. The right wall, there is a huge map of Northern Europe with various dots on them, both on the land and in the sea as well. Does anybody have any military knowledge skills that you might be able to roll to see what they actually are?
No, nothing here.
Survival urban is the closest I can come up with in that. Yeah.
Okay then. Anybody got a specific skill? No. Okay then. Who's somebody can roll an insight roll for me, and I'll give you the information.
Okay, I'll roll it.
Yeah, you sort of like quickly have a look around it, and you've been in the military for some time, Faraday, and you suddenly realise that the marks on the map are actually United States and NATO bases of operations. They're not Soviet. They're actually NATO and US in Northern Europe. So sort of like slightly down into the south east of your location, and you can see that there's all these have been placed on the map. You're quite surprised actually to suddenly find out that some of them you thought were actually top secret, and they're actually marked on the map.
We'll say, I don't know how they got that information on there. Damn commies.
You probably have disconnected your face mask now. It's
yeah.
not warm in here, but it is. You're out of the wind.
Yeah. So he sort of like walks over to where the heater is, and almost like a second, he sort of like takes his gloves off and he sort of like puts his hand round it, and then realizes that if there's no heat coming off it, it hasn't been on for a long time, and it's not giving out any heat.
Yeah, you sort of like tilt it slightly, and you hear the lapping of kerosene inside. It seems to have kerosene in it to burn. It would just be a matter of getting it up and running.
I don't know why they've got this map in the medical department.
Right, hang on, because Longshanks has turned his video off, so everybody is now in the wrong place. So I need to assign everybody.
Did he not just stop it?
Yeah, but once you stop it, you go to the bottom of the list.
The question is, has it made any difference?
I don't know. Can you hear me a little bit better?
That's brilliant.
Let me just move. So I'm just moving people.
Do we take the break?
Darth says Bartleby. Laugh out loud as Bartleby, because he's moving. And then he said, "Oh no, sorry, I mean Tar." Yeah, it seems a good idea. We're about ready for the break. In any case, just before we do that, I just want to. Did you want to get this heater up and running?
No.
Okay, then just to let you know, if you do want to get it up and running, it will be a mechanical roll to get it up and done. Okay, then. So
the plan is Faraday's just go over there, and he's just going to wait there and wait for other people to do their stuff.
Okay then, so we'll take a quick 10-minute break there. The party have arrived in the Arctic Circle, are sheltering within one of the hubs now, and they seem to be in a part office, part research station. So we're going to take a quick break for 10 minutes, and then we will be right back. So please don't go away. we are coming back on now. There we go. So everybody's in the right position, which is fantastic. And we left the party. The party are 1980 special agents, and they have parachuted into this camp, a Soviet camp, that they're unaware of what it's being used for. It was meant to be some kind of weather station, but all of a sudden they're in a prefabricated building. One side of it is sealed as a laboratory, and there's some biohazard suits hanging up. Can I please remind you that you found out all this just by moving your flashlights around? You know, there's no light on in here. There seems to be no power to it. So you're just sort of like moving your torches around. So I think it's training facility for Putin. It probably is, actually. It's just round the corner. Okay then, let me find out where you are. Yeah, you're here. Okay then, so just to recap on the important bits. So there's an airlocked laboratory to your left. To the right, there is that big map up on the wall that Faraday has identified the US and NATO bases of operation. There's a prototype of an SM1600 microcomputer with 2 terminals. There's some memory chips around there. There's also some piles of notes scattered around on the table. There's a kerosene heater in the corner that is unlit. And then within the sealed laboratory, there seems to be microscopes, centrifuges, and what appears to be like boxes on the wall that when you shine your torch over it, has that biohazard sign on it. And there seems to be a couple of those up there. So, yeah, what do people want to do?
Matheson is going to lean across to Faraday and say, Faraday, could you get some light on in here at all so I can read some of these notes, or at least maybe hold the torch steady so I can see what the heck they were up to in here?
There should be one in your kit. Check your kit. I made sure everybody had a head torch before they set out.
The head torch. Oh, right. Sorry. I'll have a quick look.
Put it on your head and shine the light down where you want to read.
Okay, then, so Matheson, you
Sure.
sort of like pull your Parker hood down and fix your minor lamp on it, and you sort of like scroll it down. There seems to be it seems to be some kind of journal that is on the paper, and I'm going to show you the actual information. It seems to be extracts from what appears to be a mission log. It's done by somebody called Tanya Carbuck, and she seems to be, from what she's written, seems to be the mission leader. Okay, and what I've actually typed out what's on the actual bits of paper, so this is what you can actually see. So I'm going to reveal it to everybody because I'm assuming that it will be shared out. Yeah. And so you should be able to see it now. So people on the screen should be able to see it as well in the stream. So you can see that the first one is dated 6 months ago. So it's some time. There's some rush operations. The Rukaka has officially commenced. Matheson, you have Russia, so by all means use Google Translate to sort that. It says the laboratory strains from Moscow will be subjected to polar conditions for this stage of the test. Once complete, we should have a decent array of samples resistant to most climatic conditions for full production. The cargo plane has taken off and we're on our own. The crew has begun construction of shelters and the installation of a laboratory. These are not in order. I'm reading them to you in order, but they're all scattered around. You can't find some that actually link together. This next one is dated 4 months ago. Xenia Stefanova fell on the ice and shattered her hip. We lack the facilities to care for her, so we need to get her off the ice. The runway is already treacherous, and we'll risk an extraction. I'm sending the radiation reports with her. Some interesting readings that we can't explain. Might be nothing. And then dated 2 weeks ago, communication from HQ. We are to halt our testing program and focus on the radiation readings. So it is something very like Yensing Governorate, and we've been told to record all surveys and findings. The whole ice flue is giving readers in transuranic range, some areas stronger than others. What have we stumbled on here? 12 days ago, we've drilled north of the base. The ice samples show the source of the radiation readings, a distinct layer. Tough to date it. The core suggests over 70 years old, but that would date it from before the Great Patriotic War. We can't be certain of origin. I've never come across anything like it. 10 days ago, we've shifted drilling from north of the camp to south near the pressure rig. The crew is getting more agitated. We've been here 2 months, and while the supply drops are welcome diversions, they do not take away from the fact that we're stuck on a sheet of ice in the Arctic under communications lockdown imposed by HQ. Kadykov is becoming increasingly agitated. He might need to be rotated off duty for a period. 9 days ago, Purushkin, Zelian and Gorov are drilling today when the drill struck something solid. Following protocol, they set off a controlled explosion. Once the ice was cleared, they found a metal hull. A goddamn metal hull. Have the Yanks lost one of their subs? Waiting for instructions to come through, but we're all on edge right now. Dated 6 days ago. We've been ordered not to open the thing. Petrushkin, the stupid bastard, is all for blowing the hatch, but I've convinced him to wait. An order comes from the top. The Sabir is on its way, probably filled with soldiers and a nuclear depth charge. So he is worried that this might be our only chance to bring a scientific perspective to all of this. Shit. After the alloy analysis, I'm scared. If this is what we think it is, what the top brass fears it is, then it changes everything.
And just to let you know that it's Snow Maiden.
Snow Maiden, thank you.
Yep. I'll relay this, of course, to everybody so everybody knows. And I'm more interested to find out what, as well, they're researching inside the containment unit. Is there any more notes for around there, or
no? You can
no clipboards.
No, in this area there's some readings that you pick up and are very familiar with, Matheson, because it's transuranic readings that you picked up from the satellite. There seems to be nothing, no reports about what's inside, but they could be on the data chips and on the computer. They could be in the air sealed laboratory. You're not too sure.
She'll look at Faraday and say, we need to get power in these buildings. We need to find out what's in this room.
Will the door not open without power?
We don't want to go in there blind. We need to have power and be. You can't all be here. There's only 2 hazmat suits.
Well,
We need to get a computer up and running to find out what they're working on there. 'Cause it could be,
well, what's your best guess?
well, it's some kind of biochemical warfare. I mean, you've got a map here that you say is all secret bases for the United States and NATO. They're cooking up something in there. The place is deserted. We've got radiation blips around the place. I would say they're working on some kind of chemical, biological weapon.
Right, so let's grab what we can here. And he'll go over and start taking the map, showing the bases off the
wall. Matthewson, just roll a perception check for me, please. Yeah, just after that conversation, you sort of like go across to the sealed laboratory and just sort of like using your head torch, sort of like move it around. There seems to be core samples in there as well. And there seems to be paper rolled up. It looks quite substantial. You think it's probably more like a map or a chart or some kind of weather survey map. It's rolled up so you can't actually see it, but just sort of like scanning around. You also see that there seems to be a lot of slides, i.e. the one covered with the slide cover on them, and they seem to be lying around on the tabletop. Okay, anybody else apart from Matthewson, who's done a quite bit, and anybody else wish to do anything else in here? Okay then, so where would you like
Does anybody have computer skill? Who has the computer skill? Nobody.
I think Longshank's character Flint does, but there's also
find it really hard to follow. Internet keeps breaking up at my end. That's what he's saying.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Do we want to carry on or just call a halt for it at that at this point? What's the feeling?
I mean, it's Longshanks. We might as well carry on.
Okay.
No, I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a nasty way, but
we need his computer skills. He's the computer.
Well,
yeah, but just copy the character onto somebody else.
Well, in order to get the computer running,
we're going to need to get the Jenny up and running.
Yeah, you need power, and there's no power at the moment.
Yeah.
So the computer will not work without power. You've also got 4 other buildings that you have no idea what's.
So Faraday is going to be saying, I appreciate what you're saying about getting the power going, but we only have 48 hours in which to get what we need and get off this place. It could take me a day to get the generator running. It's been unoperational for 8 days. It's going to need to fall out. We get what we can from here. We make the best judgment that we can from what we can see. Then we check the other buildings. If we can't find what we need from there, then we come back.
Okay, just a quick question. This containment, is it a standard one where you put your hazmat suits on, you then go into a second stage area where you close the door behind you, and then looking at the top of that, does it look like there's any decontamination sprays?
Yeah, it looks like there's some kind of cleaning outfit on, but probably handheld scrubbing rather than anything else. You know,
so two would have to go in and
and it's obvious that these have come out. Just to let you know, you haven't actually looked at the generator yet. You've looked at the satellite dish and the snowmobiles, but that's actually it so far. Nobody's checked the generator. You know where it is, but you don't know what position it's in.
Faraday is going to say, see what you can find out from here. I'm going to go and check the generator quickly, just to see how long it's going to take to get going.
Well, why don't you take Tara with you, and I'll keep Flint with me. Then you can watch and shine a light through the window to make sure everything's okay when I go in.
There aren't no windows. Oh,
No, going into the lab.
Yes,
please.
into the lab. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan to me.
do you have any mechanic skill?
Myself?
Well, you're coming with me, aren't you?
I'm not a mechanic, friend.
I've got pretty damn good mechanic skills. I should probably go with you, but it's up to you, Faraday.
You're back. Sorry.
Okay then. So is
Tal, you keep with Matheson. I'll take Flint. See whether or not we can make a best judgment on this generator. It probably work better with both of us working on it at once.
okay. So you sort of like put your gear back on, ready to go outside. Flint and Faraday, could you just make perception rolls as you step back outside for me, please? Okay, yeah, and you notice that it's still windy and very snowing, and you go around, and if you remember, there's only one cable coming to it from the satellite dish. It's actually the generator looks like it's iced over, but it doesn't look like it's damaged at all. This one. You don't think Flint sort of like looks at it, and this is not big enough to actually power the whole site. Flint sort of like says that this one probably powered the satellite in this research lab, because there's quite a lot of things that's drawing power on it. There's probably another generator somewhere else that probably did the other half of the camp. Flint, if you can hear me, then just roll your mechanic roll for me.
Can it be augmented with mine?
Yeah, it can do, but he succeeded. So you sort of like, both of you sort of like set to work. This is very slow work. So I'm going to nip back into Matheson and Tar inside the laboratory. Is there anything that you guys want to do before the power is actually identified and up and running?
Well, I'll start to put on the hazmat suit.
Okay.
Tar just watches because he's not here to do the brain work. He's here to keep everybody alive.
Okay, so the first thing you notice, Matheson, just before you do it, to put on the suit will require you to get out of your cold weather outfit, i.e. your parka and your gear. You will be exposed to the coldness of the area. Even in here, there's no heat. So you will not be going in with your cold weather gear on. I thought I'd tell you that so you can make a decision whether or not you wish to.
In which case, she won't go in because it's not a place you go into with stiff fingers.
No, I totally agree.
She'll wait for somebody to get back and turn on the fire.
Okay then. So the fire just needs a light. It's just a kerosene heater. There's kerosene in it. You probably just have to light it, and it will start generating heat. It's not powered.
No, in which case, she'll leave it to Tar and say, "Tar, do you smoke? Do you have a light?"
I don't.
You're probably in your.
Let me check my survival kit.
In your survival gear, you'll have some kind of light. Would you like to light the kerosene heater there?
I would, yes.
Yeah. Okay, it doesn't take a roll to do it, and it's sort of like it takes a few minutes to actually catch light, but eventually it sort of like comes to life, and you sort of like seal it off, and it starts to generate heat, but it's going to take quite a while to get this up and running. Faraday and Flint, you can work on this. This is an issue. Probably 1 hour's gone already from actually getting up to this point, and it'll take you roughly an hour to get this generator up and running. Are you happy to spend that amount of time on it?
Does it look like it's just been left, it's iced over.
Correct.
The fuel's got to be repumped through it.
Exactly. It doesn't
There
look.
doesn't seem to be anything like, it's been tampered with.
Not at all.
Fuel lines being cut.
Well, the only line that you can see that has broken off is the one going to the satellite dish.
Right. Yeah.
And that's been sort of like cut off, but it doesn't look like it's been snapped. It looks like, just roll an insight roll for me.
It's like people have borrowed parts for something else.
Roll an insight, and then I can. Yeah, okay, nice critical success there. Yeah, it looks like somebody has taken a part of the power cable, and it looks like it was probably ripped off rather than sliced or cut. It looks as if somebody's literally gone like that. There's all frayed edges. So are you guys going...
Could I make seeing this, could I make a comms check to see whether or not I know which part's been taken and what else it could be used for?
Well, it's nothing. It's a power cable.
Right. Okay.
And
right.
that's what it is.
Okay.
So are you two both going to work on this generator together to try to get it up and running?
Is it quicker both of us working together rather than one
that
person?
was the one. If you work together, it'd take you 1 hour.
Right.
If you work separately, only one person, it's going to take you 2 hours. And no, you can't all get round it and then it would only take half an hour or anything like that.
Okay, so Faraday's going to say to Flint, he's going to tell him to start working on it, and he's going to go back round.
So are you leaving Flint outside here unprotected?
Yes.
Okay.
He's going back round. He's going to go in, tell the other two that the generator can be got going, but it's going to take an hour, and we're going to be working on that. And then he's going to go back out and back round. Okay,
then. So you all sort of like hang around for an hour to get the generator up and running. And it doesn't seem to be damaged in any way. It just seems to be been left for about 8 days without any power to it, and it's just like frozen up. Once you get it up and running, the first thing that you notice, Matheson and Tar, after that time, and what was the mechanic roll? Was that the 77 one?
The mechanic was a 77, but that was unaugmented. If we're adding mine onto it, I've got mechanics of 46, so we could get another 10%.
Yeah, that's all right. It just makes 66. It's not a problem. So sorry, up at the skill to just over 100. So yeah, it takes you. Well, a little bit longer than an hour, like an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes to actually get this up and running. Matheson and Tar, while you're inside, this kerosene starts to heat up the room, and as it starts to heat it up, then you notice that you start to take off some of your cold weather survival gear, because otherwise you're going to be literally too hot. And after about like an hour and a quarter, you hear the hum outside of the generator, where it sort of like coughs and splutters for a while, and then it sort of like comes on and gets into that rhythmical sound of it working. And the first thing that Matheson and Tar, you notice is that lights come on in your hab. You notice that the computers come on, they seem to be rebooting. You also notice that the overhead spray unit or something sort of like comes on, and a red light comes on round the doors, warning that it's a sealed environment in there. And then Faraday and Flint join you back in the inside. And what would you like to do?
Faraday will say, "Well, aren't this cozy? Nice and warm in here, isn't it?"
We thought you'd appreciate a bit of warmth when he came in from fixing that. And with that, she'll take off the rest of her outdoor clothing and then try to squeeze into the hazmat suit.
Yeah, the hazmat suit is quite big because generally they are. So you sort of like take off your your cold weather gear and manage to get inside the suit. Is the idea to go into the laboratory?
Yes, indeed. And then I'll go alone inside there, and I'll just pray to my good hope that I can scrub myself down on the way back. I should be able. She's done this before.
Yeah. Okay then. So
How long are you going to be needing here? Give me a time scale.
It depends what I find. I mean, it could be 10 minutes. It could be an hour. So maybe.
You, Flint.
If we're going to be here that long, I'll fire up the PC and this compute desktop and have a go, see what I can find on some of these files. And he's going to be like picking up the files that are on the floor,
okay.
the chips.
Do you have the language of Russian at all?
No.
No. Okay then. So roll your computer skill. Okay then, so you start busying yourself trying to, just to let you know, it's hard for you because of the lack of language, but you managed that roll. So you start sort of like hacking into the computer. It's not the best thing for you to work with. There's a lot of Russian in there. You're not too clear what's actually on there, but you do manage.
Faraday will sort of like say to him, do you need any help? I know a bit of Russian, not very much.
Yes, that could be. That would be very handy.
Okay then. So what you managed to decrypt and actually identify, I'm going to share with you now. So everybody will be able to see it. It's a mixture of data and information. So if you just listen, so I can explain it to you. So when it says something like reams of meteorological and climatography data, that is just loads of figures. That's not those words. There's just a whole load of figures about it. There's also radiation readings indicating the transuranic nature of the local background count. There's loads of those figures. There's a folder containing some things about Operation. What was it called?
Snow Maiden.
Snow Maiden. That it says there some research into pathogens. And there's a communication log and a record of electronic communications between the research station's computer and somewhere in Russia, and you can see some of the logged datas there as it goes back. Details in an attached file, you can't see that, but everything else is exactly how it looks like it. So I'm trying to give you this impression that there's a whole load of data there, and feel free to sort of like go through it and pick out and ask any questions. This is basically the data that you have. So there's no more data to come. This is exactly what it says. While you're doing that and having a read of that, Matthews, let's put you into the sealed laboratory. So when you actually get in there, you can open it, and you do notice that the glass is actually reinforced glass to look in. It's only when you sort of like go through that yeah, it probably needs some kind of explosive to break it, if anything else. There seems to be some kind of map. It seems to have a north and a south drill site on it. It seems to be almost like a blank piece of paper, but showing the distances. So using this, you might be able to get yourselves to the actual areas. You also find a whole load of what appears to be containers that have in the boxes on the wall. There seems to be 16 slots for these tubes in. They're behind radiated, there's a sign for radioactive or toxic pathogens. There seems to be 16 containers or holder for 16 of these. They're just like the blood sample bottles that you get when you take blood. So there's like a little test tube with a seal on. Yeah, but it's got a heavy seal on that is then encased with what looks like aluminium foil and then sealed down. One of the boxes is absolutely full. There's 16 slots and there's 16 containers with various things in, and the other one has 16 slots. However, there's only 15 containers in there. One is definitely missing. You have a quick glance around, but you can't see either a full or an empty one of them at all. There's
nothing smashed on the floor or anything. No.
You look at them and you look at some of the. I said there were some pieces of paper in there as well, and they seem to be talking about. And you just sort of like just roll your science skill for me to see how much information you'll actually get. Right, so you start looking through them, and you're using your Russian as well, and there seem to be talking about prehistoric pathogens and how these can be used in some kind of warfare. They seem to be talking about warming them up to see the feasibility of reconstituting them, putting them back together. It looks very strange. There seems to be roughly, they all seem to be labeled Y dash and a number. Okay, there's about 26 different ones. So in the 16 lot, there's 16 different ones and another 16 different ones, but there's only 32. There's only 26 altogether. So they seem to have something like Y14, Y21, Y25, Y1. And that's the only way they seem to be labeled. You do see some reference to that on the notes. It sort of like says Y14 tested, Y this tested, and things like that. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that this probably was a research station, but something to do with pathogens, maybe prehistoric viruses that they found, that could be linking it to the map that you saw, maybe some kind of germ warfare, chemical warfare, whatever it is. You really do not like the look of things.
No, exactly. And I will pass that information across. I'll also explain about a pathogen that if they can maybe apply some heat to it and be able to add an oxygen molecule on there to activate it, perhaps, and some water, because we're 80% water pretty much. So maybe they'd be able to activate it. And this is frightening stuff. This is what they're planning to do. Yeah,
especially since there's one missing.
That's a pathogen. It's a generator, so it'll just keep reproducing itself.
Do we know which one's missing?
No, your guess is as good as mine. The numbering here is haphazard. Well, it is to me.
It is, yeah.
So no, I mean, I don't know whether it's been taken or whether it's been used as on a test subject or it's just over there, sitting in a cupboard somewhere. Let me have another look. In fact, let me have a look what this tube is first. You said there was a tube of rolled up.
Yeah, that's the drill
Was that the
sites.
drilled sites?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will spend a bit more time. I'll be looking. Any more notes or anything? I'll be looking for those. I'll be looking around. I don't want to be touching these tubes until I know exactly what they are.
Okay.
Right, full stop. This place needs to be burnt to the ground.
So you sort of like looked round, or that's all the information that you found, and then you contaminate yourself, and then return to your cold weather gear as much as you can, because it's getting quite nice and warm in here. And yeah, what would the party like to do next?
What have you found out, Flint, from the computer?
Well, there's a lot of communication going backwards and forwards along with a lot of data, so I've kind of followed the communications at the moment, and yeah, it's not good. The most worrying one is the last report, which is saying you're overdue, no reply, efforts will be made to sanitize area, and then they talked about the arrival of an NS Seabar. So I'm assuming we've got a lower window than 48 hours based off that.
Does it give an ETA at all?
No ETA. But this was several days ago.
Okay, we get what we can from here, and then we check the rest of the buildings. Tar, I want to charge in here. We need to destroy it if we have to.
Yes, sir. I'll get right on it.
We can't take this stuff with us. We're not leaving it to be back by anybody else.
Faraday, just before you go any further, the only way you're going to destroy what's in that room, if you can get into that room, is by burning it from the inside. So setting up a thermal that is the only way to completely irreversibly destroy it.
Yeah,
you can't just blow it up.
Matheson, you know this. If this area was blown up, it could be that every single one of those vials shatters, and then it could actually release the pathogens and make them airborne.
And I also know, because I spent the last 3 weeks doing MCAT biochemistry.
Yeah.
I don't want more problems. I want solutions to problems. If we can't blow it up, what can we do to it?
Well,
we want the commies to get it.
No, well, the inside of there,
it looks like
we need fire. Fire. That's a surefire thing of getting rid of it. Is burn it.
We've got a kerosene heater over here.
No, we need something more to be definitely sure, because it has to burn the whole entire room out.
Will C4 not do that?
We perhaps we could. No, because that would just blow it up. What we'd need is maybe flood the room with oxygen, perhaps, and maybe.
If you put the C4 on the actual containers, hopefully it burns up the pathogen with the extremeness. But since you're not even Matheson, you know what's in there.
Exactly.
You don't know what it's resilient to, whether or not it's airborne, is it contagious via touch. I mean, you're not too sure that you have enough information to actually decide one way or another.
Okay, so we go on what we do have. Tar, you put a charge, suit up, get in there, put a charge on where you think it's best. And then we move on. We go to the next buildings. We check those out before getting out of here. It seems that we don't have as much time as we first thought. We're not getting picked up for 48 hours, but we know that there could be other people coming here.
If there's time, it might be useful to try and download some of this. Definitely the communication logs, if not some of the radiation style data. Could be useful.
Information as you can from the computer, and then delete it.
Okay then, so you spend at least another hour. Tar needs to get into the biohazard suit and actually get in there. You're not completely used to working in biohazard suits, Tar, at all. So just roll your demolition skill for me, and then you spend the rest of the hour sort of like downloading data onto chips, etc. It's quite warm in here. Yeah, so you sort of like position it that you think the best that you can, but it takes you a good. I mean, you've since your drop, you've been here for 3 hours now, and mainly in this room. So you've got them positioned, Tar, so you know roughly that it would blow the hab up. Nobody knows whether or not the pathogens would be destroyed in the explosion or not. From where you placed the C4, you hope they would be, and then you decontaminate yourself, and then get out the suit and get back into your cold weather gear. The information that you got from the computer you download to chips. There's plenty of chips around that can be done up to, and then you sort of like got those as well. So about so you've been on site now for about 3 hours. You got the generator up and running in here, and that's been chugging away. And
that only powers this one room, this one.
You
building.
You haven't been to any
Right,
other
okay.
room,
Right.
so you don't.
We haven't seen any sort of. Oh, right, but there's a lot of snow, so we can't see cables or anything going.
Yeah, the only cable you sort of like checked out was the one coming from the satellite round the back.
Right.
And you've literally came straight across to the satellite here. And remember, you can't see out of the habs at all because there's no windows. So just to let you know, this would now show up on thermographic imagery now, because the hab is nice and warm.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 hours into the mission, Tar, you're out of your suit now, and people are ready to move ahead if they wish to.
Matheson's going to turn off the heater while he's getting changed. In the hope
I see. Tar's getting
no, while Tar's getting changed, in the hope that it'll be cool enough to take with us.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to carry it. You probably can come back for it, and 2 people carry it across, but it's not something that you can sort of like walk around with.
Have we taken the map that showed all of the bases, the US and NATO bases?
Yeah, Faraday took that down earlier on.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
So we've got the journal, we've got all the stuff downloaded from the computer, we've got the map, and did we get anything from...
We got the drill site maps as well.
Right.
And the notes that were in the pickup.
Okay, so once we've got all that, once Tar suited up, Faraday, I say, Tar, you got point straight across to the next building, clockwise.
Clockwise. Got it.
Okay.
And Tar will exit and prepare to lead the group clockwise.
So if you put yourselves near the building that you're going to next, then I can see. Okay then. Cool. So as you leave and the door seals behind you, and the power is still on in that room, just so you know. Can everybody make perception rolls just as you come out?
I thought that was my special then.
No, it's not, I'm afraid. Okay, Faraday, as Tar leads you out and you sort of like follow on, and then Matheson and Flint, because you got a critical success, as you cross over, you notice there seems to be footprints in the snow. These must have been quite recent, because the amount of snow that is coming down, even if you look across at yours, they're being filled up and drifted away. And these look like they've been made probably 5 or 10 minutes ago. And I mean, they're being covered up. It seems as if it came from your hab unit that you were in, on the path that roughly you're taking, but more sort of like that, rather than to the actual building.
Okay, so when he sees them, he's going to tap Tar on his shoulder, and he's going to hold up his arm to stop the people behind him. And then once everybody's stopped, he's going to point them out so other people can see them.
Yeah, and everybody sort of like sees them. They seem to be human booted, but even now they're being covered up, you know. And you think within another 30 seconds, your footprints are nearly gone, and they will be gone.
Okay, so seeing that, Faraday wants to immediately break off from the other people and start following them as best he can.
Yeah, well, you literally
until they're covered.
Right. So what's everybody? Is Tar still heading over to the building?
Tar will move towards the building, but stop so he can keep a line of sight on Faraday moving away, but so that he's not out in the open.
Okay, then. Faraday's going to start following the footprints. What about Flint and Matthewson? What are you guys doing?
Matheson has no intention of wandering into the snow, so she will again stay with Tar, again trying to keep out of the wind as much as possible.
Okay, then. And what about Flint?
Flint will probably go with Faraday just to make sure, just following sort of like a few meters behind, just to make sure that he's not on his own.
So, Faraday, how long are you following these footprints for?
I want to see, do they go around to the back of the building, or do they just lead off into the snow? I want to get a sense of direction. We know that they've come from our building, but I'm trying to get a sense of direction where they've gone from here.
Okay, so you'll follow them until you get a sense of where they're heading to.
Yeah, I mean, if they head off in this direction, then I'm not going to follow them out onto the ice floe. I'm going to turn back. But if they go round the back, then I'm going to follow them round that way.
Okay, then. Tar and Matthewson, what are you planning on doing? Because you're stood outside this building.
Well, I haven't really been given any other commands, so Tar would look to go to the door to this building, assuming Faraday knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Is the idea that you're going into the building?
Yes.
Okay.
With a gun prepared to shoot if anything's...
Okay, and Matthewson, are you going in with Tar?
I will. I'll go with Tar, but I'll say to Tar, do you want me to open the door for you?
I'll nod.
Okay, so you two sort of like open the door and head into the building. Faraday and Flint, you head round. You get to about here. It looked like the footprints are going almost like a south direction now, but they're sort of like covered over, and you come to a halt. They're just sort of like slowly just being disappeared. Matthewson and Tar, you open the door and you seem to be in the toilets, the latrines. There's a trio of sort of like chemical toilets straight ahead of you on the back wall, and in the far side off to the right left there's two standing shower cubicles in there for getting washed, etc. You immediately notice that there's a body slumped against the wall, just in one of the showers. You notice, you sort of like scan your light over it, and you notice to your shock that he's sort of like frozen. He literally is frozen solid. Matthewson, do you want to go up and get more information or not?
What I'd like to do is get the torch out to see if there's any signs of wounds first, or any sort of.
From this is what I'm saying. If you want to get closer, to check out what's actually wrong with him.
Okay, I will get closer, but I will not touch him. I'll just lean over. I want to check for any blemishes or anything on the skin, anything out of the ordinary.
Okay, then so his face looks like it's got blood on it, but you know, if you want to, that's all you can tell just by looking at him. Is there anything else you would like to do?
Okay, in which case she'll pull out a pair of surgical gloves. And
so are you taking off your cold weather gloves?
Yeah, for this part, yes, because I want to be fully. Yep.
Okay, so you take off you take off your cold weather gloves, and the first thing that you notice as you pull on your surgical gloves is that your hands immediately start to almost like freeze up. All your rolls now are formidable for anything that you're doing with your hand, and you somehow manage to scrape on these surgical gloves that in the cold are actually becoming more and more rigid, and you sort of like try for some time to put them on. See you later, Garish. While Matthew's son is doing that, Tar, is there anything you would like to do?
Yes, definitely. Tar wants to confirm that every single stall, every single chemical toilet is not occupied by anybody in wait.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're literally just like 3 toilets with a little privacy cubicle down either side. They're not enclosed or anything like that. You saw that as soon as you came in. Anything else? Because you'll still have some time to do things, Tar, if you wish.
Tar will he'll step out, but he'll mutter a quick word of gonna flag down on Faraday. And we'll step out so that if the rest of the group comes back, they'll see that we're over there. Okay,
then. So Faraday and Flint, you probably come back around your steps to meet Tar outside, who brings you up to date with what's happening. Make your medicine roll for me, please.
Yeah. It's first aid. So it's
that's cool.
Oh, no.
Do you wish to use a point of luck or not?
Yes, I'll re-roll it for a point of luck.
Well, you can switch it to 49, which on your hard roll will.
Sorry, that's right. Yep.
It's formidable, though.
It's formidable. Sorry,
formidable.
Yes.
Oh, yes, you're going to have to re-roll it.
That's better.
Yeah. Okay then. So this is the information that you find. His skin, all of it, seems to have severe frostbite to it. And he's obviously not wearing his cold weather gear. He seems to be wearing sort of like normal everyday clothes. His body is actually frozen. He's frozen solid. His face is contorted as if he's sort of like screaming. And you notice as you get closer and start to check things out that he seems to have frozen blood over his face, and it's run out of his eyes and his nose and his mouth. He sort of like has his face in almost like a screen. You sort of like trying to ascertain how he died, and you sort of like move him slightly, and you notice that his neck has been snapped with a particular great deal of force, so much so you can tell that it's been snapped before it's been frozen, because of the angle it has, and it's been frozen into it. You notice that he has an ID card on that identifies him as one of the survey people, working for the science division, and you also notice that the watch, he has a watch on that says that he's been dead for about 4 days, which is really strange. The other thing that you notice that he's got something clenched in his left hand. You can pry it open if you wish. It will require you to actually bend and snap fingers in order to do it, or you can't see what's actually in there. But he's definitely clutching something.
Well, I will have to do that because it could be that missing vial.
Okay, then. So, you sort of like snap his fingers open, and you notice that it is one of the containers. It is labelled sample Y-25, and it appears to be frozen. It doesn't seem to be in its liquid state at all.
When Faraday gets back to this block, he's going to motion Tar to keep an eye out one way, and for Flint to keep an eye out the other way. So we've got a bit of protection.
I'm not going to pick this tube up until I put my gloves back on and get some proper feeling back to my hands.
Okay, then. So you sort of like put your gloves on. It's going to take a bit of while to actually warm your hands up. Going back to the kerosene heater might help it, but at the moment, until I say otherwise, just remind me and I'll tell you what your skill levels are at. Mathewson, I presume you're coming out and actually telling the people what you've actually found there.
Yes, indeed. Yep. I found the missing vial, and there's a dead man in there. His neck was snapped before he died, and he's just frozen there now. But he had this clutched in his hand. It's the vial, the missing vial. So we need to get that back in the room before we destroy it.
I'm more concerned about the live guy out here than the dead guy in there.
To be honest, sir, I'm more concerned about this.
Okay, so is the plan to carry on your search to the next building or something else?
Well, if we're not going back to the main to the chemical lab, Matheson will bury this vial so she can find it. So like at the side of the building and bury it in the snow.
Okay.
Because she doesn't want to be carrying it around with her in case anything she trips and smashes.
Yeah, so if you just like to put a dot where you want to bury it in the snow.
It's like a needle in a haystack.
Okay. And is the idea to go to the next?
Yeah, but Faraday has almost like gone into a bit more of a cautious thing. Beforehand, he didn't think there was anybody here. It was just come here, go in, get some information, maybe sit in a room for 12 hours until it was ready to go. But now they know he's going to be making sure that people, watch our flanks and keep the corner. So as we get up to this one, he wants somebody keeping an eye out down this way.
Okay. Yeah.
Somebody keeping an eye out that way.
Yeah. Just to let you know, while you were round about the back, you saw the other generator here when you, because you were, I forgot to put it on because you actually came round to here so you could see it. Okay then, so is Tar going into this room?
Tar would have been probably at this post, as Faraday had put him to guard down that way.
Okay then, so Tar's down there. Is everybody guarding and nobody going in, or?
No. The Faraday's going to take lead, and he's going to draw an automatic pistol before opening this, whatever this door is. If it's the same type as,
It's the same. All the doors are exactly the same type.
yeah, okay. So he's going to opening that one, and
Okay, so you're
he's going to go in.
You're going in. Who else is going in, and who's staying outside?
I'll stay outside.
Yeah, Matheson will be going in with the torches. And
Okay, so Tar's staying outside in the cold.
But I'll go more towards the entrance once everybody makes their way in. I'll stand near.
And Flint, are you staying outside in the cold or going into the room?
Flint will be staying outside, but he's covering the other half of
Okay,
the
then.
1-8.
So can both Tar and Flint give me endurance checks, please? And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's happening inside. So Flint, unless you want to use luck, you've now gained 1 level of fatigue from staying out because you're staying out for quite a considerable time when this is happening inside. Matheson and Faraday, you go in. Flint and Tar, you don't know this information, so I'm not going to disconnect you or anything, but you'll have to wait till it's communicated with you. So the people who are actually inside, this is probably the largest of the building, and it seems to be the barracks of some description. You notice that there's about 4 large gashes, about 1 meter long and several centimeters apart, on the back wall south of the generator. You also notice that snow and ice has started to accumulate in the building through those gashes, so they've obviously been there for quite a while. The room itself is a complete and utter shambles. There's beds upturned, there's personal belongings strewn everywhere. You take a quick bed count. There seems to be 10 beds and what you would assume to be 10 footlockers, but you can only see 6 footlockers. There seems to be 4 missing. Could you both of you inside roll and perception checks as normal, please? So there's a standard rolls.
I've got a standard 20 out of 77.
Brilliant. Okay then, so Faraday, you also notice some other things. There seems to be what appears to be blood, you assume, on one of the overturned beds and splattered against the wall. You probably identified this to Mathewson. Mathewson, just roll your first aid or medicine skill or whatever. It's blood. It's definitely blood. You're not too sure whose blood, but it's definitely blood. The other thing that you see, Faraday, is that you see what appears to be a shredded parka, like a cold weather parka. It looks like it's been shredded to bits, and on it looks like it almost like something with claws has sort of like scraped through it, and you notice that there's some kind of frozen substance around the claw marks. What it is, you're not too sure. You also notice that there's quite a few bullet holes. Do you have roll your firearm skill, Faraday?
Sorry, I did. Right, yeah, I couldn't hear what you were saying. Firearms skill.
Yes, please. Yeah, they look like 9mm holes, and you can see some shells as well. There's also a gun locker.
On the back wall, are they?
Yeah, near where the the
So,
claw
so
marks.
the actual marks on it have actually come right the way through the.
Most definitely, they've come through. The claw marks have opened up enough of the habs for snow and ice to come in, and that it's on that back wall that you can see the bullet holes and the casings on the floor. There's also what you recognise as a gun locker on the western wall, sort of like on your side by the door, and there's nothing in it. And it seems to have had its hinged door completely ripped off. And one thing that you both notice, you see a cine camera, a Super 8 cine camera, just lying on the floor. It doesn't look like it looks like it's probably been on or in something, and it's just toppled off. What would you like to do?
Okay, so Faraday is going to cautiously make his way towards the cine camera.
Yeah, there's nothing else in this building. It's quite obvious looking around. There's nothing that can even hide underneath beds or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, there's cine cameras there.
Is it one that you would have to connect up to an overhead projector?
No, you can actually watch it if you wish. It seems to have a film in.
Okay, so he's going to, once he picks it up, he's going to press play.
Yeah, what's Matthewson doing?
Seeing him do this, Matheson will be keeping an eye out around. In fact, what Matheson will do is she'll go to the door, stick her head out, and just tell them what's going on outside, so they're aware. And if anybody wants to swap over and come inside for a bit.
So Tar and Flint, are you going inside or are you staying outside?
Tara's pretty tough. He'll stay outside. We need somebody out here watching, but he'll gesture with his head for Flint to go on in.
Flint will nod, and he'll follow Matheson back into the.
Well, I'd swap places with you basically, so I'd go outside.
Okay, so Matthewson, you need to roll an endurance check, and Tar, you need to roll your next endurance. So Matthewson now, you have got one level of fatigue
yeah.
on, and Tar, you're absolutely fine. So Faraday, this is the information that you get from the cine camera, the Super 8 footage. Okay, it looks
something for me.
It looks like the footage starts off. It's captured in sort of like low light vision, almost as if it's got a green infravision on it of some kind. And the initial features or films are all about the initial life in the camp. They shows the scientists laughing and joking, going across their daily duties, sort of like saying, "No, don't point that at me." There's no sound. It's just sort of like the footage, but you can tell what's actually happening. There's more footage of people riding snowmobiles. They all seem to be very sort of like good natured. There's a bit of a snowball fight that you see. And then you see they seem to be going somewhere, and you can see that the snowmobiles have been parked, and it looks like there's somebody clad out in a biohazard suit, and they seem to be having it on, and the camera sort of like focuses on the man's face through the plastic helmet, and you can see that he's got a label on that is saying Petrushkin. I'll stick it in the
Does this look like it's been filmed inside or outside?
outside. You can't, it looks like you just roll your insight. Yeah, you figure it's probably at one of the drill sites that you've seen from the from the previous room, and it seems then it sort of like pans round, and there's sort of like an aperture, a hole in the ice, and as the camera sort of like is pointed downward, it seems to be like an exposed hatch. It looks like it's metallic, almost like the top of a submarine's hatch. And then this Purushkin starts to climb down the shaft, and he looks back up at the camera and puts a thumb up. The camera bobs as if the holder is nodding. And then you see Purushkin readies his HK MP5 and pulls open the hatch, and you see from the footage that there's a blast of steam that fills up the ice shaft and fogs up the camera, and as it clears you see Petrushkin leans into the opening of the inside the hatch, and then all of a sudden he screams, and something grabs his head and pulls him in. And there's another rush of steam that freezes up the lens, and something dimly is seen coming up the wall. It grabs the cameraman, and the camera seems to stumble through the air, and somebody else seems to pick it up as a run, and sort of like it seems to start moving quite fast. You think he's probably, or she's probably, on the snowmobile, and he looks back, and you can see this other hand scrambling to get out of the shaft, and then all of a sudden they just sort of like go straight limp as it's pulled down. And then you notice that the camera just goes black, and that's the end.
Was it time and date stamped 6 days ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tar and Matthewson, can you both make perception rolls for me, please?
Can I use a point of luck to reroll?
Yeah, by all means.
Oh, wait, hold up. Oh, yeah, that's my last luck point. All right, here's my reroll.
Okay, then. You're both sort of stood outside, and you are both sort of like keeping an eye out, and you suddenly notice Tar. There seems to be somebody in cold weather gear here, and you're not too sure what alerted you to it. Maybe just your sense of something, but you suddenly look round. Matthewson seems to be unaware of it, and you see that this person is holding up a 9mm automatic pistol that he shoots. Matthewson, it hits you in your 17.
Uh, 17 is left arm.
Left arm.
Sorry, I was muted already. That's
Yeah.
a perfect position to hit.
Yeah, perfect. I just need to. Is it 1d6 plus 1? 9mm.
9mm
Yes.
sidearm. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So let me just do that. So yeah, this shot goes off, and it does a staggering 2 points of damage, and it just skims your arm and sort of like cuts through your cold weather gear. He looks like he is sort of like here. He seems to be in cover and just leant out and shot Matthewson in Matheson in the arm. Okay then, and that brings us up to 10 o'clock. So we will leave it.
Only just. It was.
there.
It just turned over onto 10.
I know. So
That's amazing.
just to remind you, Faraday, you will have to spend some time next time relating what you saw on the cine camera, or everybody will have to have a look. So please remember, you can't use that knowledge until you've actually looked at it. And Mathewson outside has been shot. Tar, you've seen the person, and Flint and Faraday, you probably hear the shot go off. It wasn't silenced or anything.
Just out of interest,
Yeah.
is the cold weather gear classed as armour or not?
No.
We're still no armour whatsoever. That's fine.
Yeah. So we will leave it there and come back to this exact position next time. So thank you for coming along and watching. I hope the players are enjoying it and are enjoying searching and figuring out what is actually happening in the setting. So if you want to see what happens afterwards, then we will be playing again next Thursday at 7 o'clock, and we'll see how the agents get on then. Until then, please remember to be who you are and say what you think, because the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind. Have fun, everyone, and I will catch you later. And until then, happy secret agenting, if that's a word. See you all later, people. Bye.
Bye.